For years, going back to school meant new pens and new papers and new folders and new clothes and a new lunchbox. Well, in 2013, also something new you need to watch out for, and that is heroin. As your kids move up to junior high and into high school, a whole new group of friends and a whole new group of pressures. So we've invited ARCA's Suneal Menzies back into the studio for a conversation about the heroin epidemic. Suneal, wish we could meet under better circumstances, but thanks for joining us here on the show.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having us.
We should say you are a sponsor of the show. I'm proud that you guys are a sponsor of the show, and I am. But this is not a sponsored segment because you guys do such great work, and it needs to be talked about over and over again. Front lines. What are you seeing with this heroin epidemic? Getting worse? Getting better? Staying the same? Where are we?
You know, it looks like it's getting worse, unfortunately. We've done a great job, especially in the St. Louis community, which is one of the top cities in the country with heroin dependence among young people, 18 to 25. We've done a great job of bringing awareness that there is a problem. How we're going to actually put some sort of stopgap to that, I'm not sure. We're just seeing that the onset of use with prescription pain pills, which is normally what it starts with.
Right.
I got mom and dad's Percocet, or I had a tooth taken out, so they gave me Vicodin. That's happening at an earlier and earlier age, and we're seeing that 1 in 10 kids by the age of 13 is hooked on pain pills.
10% of kids are hooked on painkillers by the age of 13?
Have tried the painkillers.
Okay.
So we're saying 1 in 10 have tried it, which we're saying eventually will lead to this individual.
Right.
There's a 1 in 10 chance of that individual then becoming hooked.
So when I say, hey, your kids are going into junior high and as a freshman in high school, parents should pay attention to what's going on.
Sure, we want to be careful. It's the first time that the individual is kind of away from mom and dad. I'm a little bit more free now that I'm in high school. We joke about it. It's the 2 times in human development when we just put things in our mouth as a toddler and as an adolescent. We get to high school, we start hearing someone says, hey, this is going to make life easier, or if you take this before class, you're going to love it, or you're really upset because your girlfriend broke up with you, try this pill. And we think that's probably really the start of when we become...
Right. There but for the grace of God go you or me, because we've all been at that party. And you're at a beer, or here, try a beer, or there's not a beer, try a cigarette, or here, there's no more beer, try a marijuana joint. Now it's hey, try this pain pill, which will then lead you down the road to heroin.
And I think we see it probably with the older crowd. By older, I mean college, young adult crowd, where they say, you know what, I started using heroin or pain pills or alcohol to self-medicate so I could feel okay. But as a 13 or 14-year-old, most of them are not saying I had major depression or a horrible childhood, so I started using. It's someone gave it to me and said it would be fun.
Right.
And you're exactly right. We just don't know, and that's why we're so strong on saying it truly is a brain disease. You've said it so well, that the medications can heal the brain.
Right.
It's just a numbers game.
Talk about that for a second, because at ARCA, and this needs to be explained too, you look at this addiction and all addiction differently than most quote-unquote traditional rehab. Talk about that for a moment.
I think the traditional rehab, which it's not necessarily, and society at large, really looks at chemical dependency or substance abuse or addiction as somewhat of a personal issue. Maybe you should have made a better choice.
Personal failing,
right. Yeah, a moral issue, personal failing. You could have been a stronger person. We fortunately or unfortunately have the opportunity to deal with a lot of patients and families, and not a single one of them, McGraw says, 15 years ago, I made the decision that we would come see you one day. It's not something that people choose. It's not no one makes a conscious choice to say, I want to be dependent on alcohol or drugs or another substance. It's an accidental type of disease where the chemistry changes at some point in this spectrum of use, and people wake up one day and go, I can't do without my best friend.
Right. And so you treat it differently.
So we've taken a very scientific approach that, unlike any other chronic illness, diabetes, hypertension, cancer, we use the tools science has given us from a medical standpoint to alleviate and to work on the biology of the disease. Patients who use a substance say, I need it just to feel normal, whether that's not anxious, not depressed, to sleep well at night, to emotionally feel stable, to physically feel stable. These medications not only allow the withdrawal symptoms to be managed, but they also control the most important part, which is the craving. And if we can control that, it gives people a chance to be well.
It's interesting. Your dad said to me, and it's so true, if you walk into a doctor's office and the doctor says you have skin cancer, the doctor says we need to treat it early and get it early, which is good. With drug addiction, they say you have to hit rock bottom. No doctor would ever say, you have skin cancer. Let's wait till you're almost near death, and then we'll start treating your cancer.
Yeah, I think it's, the disease is really two parts by the time it becomes a full-fledged disease. I think there's this biological component, which says I need it to feel okay, I need it to feel normal. Post that, especially because we can effectively utilize medications, which, like you said, you have skin cancer. No, if you have cancer, the doctor doesn't say, McGraw, stop smoking cigarettes or stop eating this type of food and don't forget the chemo.
Right.
If he does, and nothing will have changed. So in this field, patients come and say, I tried this, I tried that, I tried this, I tried that, I failed, I'm hopeless. And our message to them is, and the families is, it may not be your fault. If I have diabetes and I don't get insulin, I can change my diet and I can exercise all I want. There's a good chance, anything could happen, there's a good chance the blood sugar won't regulate.
Yeah.
The same component is true here. The difference, those are physical ailments. I break my arm, I pay attention to it. I have diabetes, I pay attention. My hair falls out, I pay attention to it. As humans, I think we're pretty quick to put off and to just defer paying attention to the condition of our soul and our emotional health.
Yeah.
It's not a concrete, tangible thing. So I'm depressed, I'll put it off. I'm struggling with my relationship with my wife, I'll put it off. Mom and dad are getting divorced and I'm 13 and I'm breaking apart inside. Well, dad said it's my fault, so I should just deal with it and move on. We're just quick as humans to put off.
Yeah. I keep hearing stories about my son, my brother, my uncle, my friend went to rehab, and he left rehab and died of an overdose, i.e. like this Glee star Corey Monteith, who we heard was in rehab and was doing fine, and then one day he leaves rehab and he overdoses. You say that that's a pretty relatively not surprising that people do this.
The stats and the research have shown that patients coming out of, and we should extrapolate this to really the concept of a physical separation from the environment. Coming out of jails or physical a physical incarceration for 30 or more days are 12 times more likely to die the first week out than any other period in their life.
So because it's been withheld, once they're out, they go overboard.
So they've stepped away. The brain has an amazing ability to heal. It heals up. The brain says, okay, we don't necessarily, they've probably gone through a lot of pain and agony, but the brain says we don't need this to feel normal anymore.
Right.
And they get home and nothing's changed. It's the same people and places and emotions and stressors and issues and the favorite chair and the room that mom and dad fight in. And they get home and it's this instant flood of, I'm trapped in this cycle.
It's triggers.
It's triggers. And people develop real human relationships. And we talk to families and we say, mom, dad, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, think about it. If I come to you and say, my girlfriend broke up with me and I'm devastated, how do I have to get over her? What will you say? It's the same concept. Keep a strong physical separation, make important lifestyle changes, begin to re-identify yourself without that individual, and then go explore what other fish are in the sea.
Right.
I break up with her, I don't see her for 4 months. If I've not made the lifestyle change, if I haven't had the opportunity to redefine myself and my environment, I'm going to see her and I'm going to be a mess.
Right.
It's really no different. People develop real relationships.
So ARCA uses this drug as well as other things. But let's talk about the other drug for a second, because there was a story in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch cover story a couple weeks ago, which I thought did a really good job explaining it. But this drug you guys use, naltrexone, as your father has said, gives you a safety net, if you will, once you leave rehab.
So not only does it block cravings, but the concept has been that we can, and I hate to use the word incarceration, it's such a hard word, but we can physically incarcerate someone. Patients can go to a residential treatment, some have to go to a hospital, some go to jail, or we can, what science now has given us, is really chemically protect or chemically jail up the brain. So the concept is the same. Now we don't have to just rely on this true physical separation from the environment. Go away to California or Florida. Go away for 30, 60, 90 days. We can detox patients, stabilize them on, for many, it's very beneficial to do it on an inpatient basis, for 7, 10, 12, 14 days, and effectively and quickly send them home, because by using this medication, naltrexone, we continue the physical separation. When patients return home, they don't have the ability to use. If they try and use while on this, from a deterrent standpoint, nothing happens. It's a waste of time and money. And more importantly, from our standpoint and their loved ones, they're protected.
So science has come up with a drug to protect us from other drugs. Has science come up with a drug to protect us from our ex-girlfriends? Because
no comment.
If you can find that, my friend, you, my friend, are a rich man. ARCA, 314-645-6840. You guys have a couple locations. You also have inpatient and outpatient counseling. Quickly, how's the inpatient counseling going?
Inpatient, I guess thankfully because people are getting well, but it's busy.
It's busy.
It's a great model though, and we're glad that we can offer it. It really gives patients that leg up to say, I can take this period to stabilize, I can be on the proper medications, and I can return home with a plan.
You also knew insurance is now starting to cover ARCA as well.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that chemical dependency and addiction at large is truly...
Insurance companies are starting to realize that it's cheaper to your way than other ways.
They're realizing that science has to be involved in this, and
Yes.
it's becoming looked at more and more as mainstream medical illness. In the past, when we called it a personal or moral failing, managed care could back out. They said it's not a disease, I don't have to cover it. Now that science is really getting involved, we know that it's a disease and that the outcomes for patients are better.
Not only have I known you and the system there for years, but I've known people who have gone through your system, and friends and families have just, bow down to you guys and say, thank God they found you. So continue the west.com for more information, right?
Yes, sir.
And 314-645-6840. Say hi to your dad for me.
I will. We appreciate everything we get all the time. Families come and say, I heard it on McGraw. Tell McGraw thanks. I hear it on 550. So we appreciate your work.
You got it. ARCAMidwest.com. Traffic, weather, all straight ahead. Big 550.